Example, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do is show you guys how to solve a proportion. Now, there's a couple ways you guys can solve a proportion. All right. I'll show you guys kind of the basic way, the easy way to look at this, but then also one way of looking at it in inverse operations. If we are going to solve this using our inverse operations, the one thing we want to do is if I was going to solve for b, what I notice right now is b is in my denominator. I can't solve for a variable when it's in the denominator. So therefore, I need to get it off of the denominator. So does anybody know how we get numbers off of the denominator? What do we guess?
Multiply by 5.
Well, if you multiply by 5, you're going to multiply across, so you get 25. You're very close, but you want to multiply by?
1. Right.
1 will produce our exact same answer. And if you guys kind of mix in your answers, we might be able to get something. But there's a couple ways you guys can do this. We can either multiply by the reciprocal to eliminate the b off the denominator, or we can just multiply by b. Let me show you why that works. If I just multiply by b on both sides, all right, b divided by b is going to be
B squared.
1. No, b divided by b, which will be 1, right? And then 1 times 5 will be 5. Do I have b in the denominator anymore?
No.
No. Then over here, I now have 3b divided by 9. Now, we did problems like this in one-step equations. What happens when you have a fraction multiplied by a variable? What do we need to multiply by now? There's a special name that rhymes with typical.
Reciprocal.
Reciprocal. So you can just multiply by the reciprocal. So if you multiply by the reciprocal, what's nice about multiplying a number by its reciprocal is we know they multiply to 1. And 1 times b equals b. So now I need to multiply 9 times 5 without looking at my phone. What I will determine is 9 times 5 is 45. 45 divided by 3 is going to be 15. My answer is 15, right? Now, let's take a look at another way that we can look at this that maybe some of you will probably prefer. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using inverse operations. That's what we have learned how to use, right? But there's another special way, special type of multiplying that almost every student remembers out of everything they've learned. Does anybody remember what special type of multiplying we have? Yes? Cross multiplication, right? But cross multiplication is very confusing sometimes because students think cross multiplication only happens when you multiply fractions. But guess what? Cross multiplication doesn't happen when you multiply fractions. Cross multiplication only happens when you want to solve a proportion, meaning you have a ratio equal to another ratio. So to do cross multiplication, all right, what you're going to do is multiply across, all right? So therefore you have 5 times 9, which is 45, equals 3 times b. Now I divide by 3, and I get 15 equals b.
It's so much easier.
It is, but you have to understand how they both work on each side. Okay? I'm not saying you don't have to do a cross multiplication. Could you turn your phone the other way around, please?